Welcome back to Have On Respect and to another edition of NXT Out of 10. Halloween Havoc was an interesting show that changed the landscape of the women's division more than any other division in NXT. Not only did we see Blake Monroe become North American champion, but Tate and Paxi also won the big prize. Darkseid also became tag team champions. And yeah, we got a lot of this week's show. Starting off with a recap of Halloween Havoc before going live to see Trick Williams throwing a fit backstage while looking for Ricky Saints. He made his way to the ring, grabbed the mic and started ranting about how he'd been in the running for things for years and should have won at Halloween Havoc, calling out Saints for another shot. Ava came out over a couple of guards and said throwing a touch and won't you let Trick what he wants. Saints eventually came out and got into a fight with Williams while security tried to pull them apart. An energetic way to open the show. It pushed a few forwards and the crowd was reacting a lot. Although Williams was not clear about why he deserved a rematch, it was still good stuff in the end. So yeah, a strong start to the show and sets up kind of the next phase in the rivalry. As we then got the men's speed championship tourney continuing with Jasper Troy taking on Axiom. The high flyer tried to stick and move, avoid the big man, but Troy eventually got the hands and put in submission. The first 2 minutes went quickly. Axiom made a comeback and tried to hit a big move, but Troy put him down with another big shot. The powerhouse hit a big hole, slam for the win with 5 seconds left. These speed matches are never going to be amazing because of the time constraint, but with only 3 minutes to work and these guys made the most of their time, and yeah, gets 6 out of 10 for me. Also quite a big win as well for Jasper Troy to get the win over a main roster star. So yeah, fair enough, worked well. After the break then, the Culling made their way to the ring to celebrate Tax and Paxley winning the women's title at Halloween Havoc. The crowd gave her a warm welcome and chanted her name, and she talked about how she's been dreaming about this for a while. She said she wants to be able to give everyone an opportunity to fight for the title, but Izzy Dame interrupted and said it's a bad idea to offer a shot to anyone who wants it. She put everyone's name on the Halloween Havoc wheel and it lands on the loader. Shawn Spears pointed out how Dane's name was not on the wheel. She was not happy about it. A decent segment to set up a title match, but yeah, it kind of does feel like the eventual betrayal of Dane is almost going to become a bit too obvious. As we then moved on to the next match, the Evolve Women's Championship was on the line with Kendall Gray defending against Lash Legend, but the champion didn't come alone. She had Bren Sinclair in her corner. It was back and forth, but as soon as Legend grabbed Gray by the neck and threw her out the ring, the tide definitely shifted a bit. Gray's quickness allowed her to keep Legend at bay most of the time, but the powerhouse kept finding ways to ground her eventually. They fought for a break and into the next segment. Legend seemed to have the match in hand until the crowd and Sinclair helped give Gray some motivation. She hit her finisher for the win and Legend missed a running boot. This match may have had some missets, but they made it look hard fought and that always helps. Gray is a good underdog character who already seems ready to move on from Evolve and do more with the company. I think, yeah, definitely proved it here. So yeah, get 6 out of 10. I guess she'll maybe drop it soon, but we'll have to see where it goes. As we then moved on to our next match, which was Mars Bourne versus Tavian Heights. Two friends stepping into the ring to see who was better this week. The former teammates had a little friction before this, but their promos made clear they still see each other as brothers. Sometimes a good competitive fight between two races is exciting because it means there's less chance of shenanigans causing a dirty finish. Both of these men are great athletes who have grown a lot during their time in NXT, so it felt like we're seeing two complete wrestlers instead of two rookies. They began by trading holds and takedowns in a nice sequence. Even though both men have been in bigger matches, it almost feels like they saw this as their chance to really prove themselves something to the crowd. Josh Briggs joined the commentary team halfway through the match and Heights went out of the ring to confront him. Bourne ended up taking both men down with a dive over the top rope. Bourne ended up getting a pin with an inside cradle that surprised his opponents, and Briggs pulled Heights out of the ring and they fought in the aisle when Williams showed up out of nowhere, hitting Bourne with a chair. He called out Saints again, which brought the champion out for another brawl. 7 out of 10. I think they kind of fit in quite nicely and it made sense. So yeah. Izzy Dane and company Tate and Paxley to the ring for a title defence against Vice. They started with a simple lock-up into head taker from Vice. A few minutes in, Fatal Influence showed up and attacked Dane at ringside. Vice and Paxley put their fight aside as the group surrounded the ring. The ref called for the bell when it broke down into a big fight. We knew this match would end without a title change, but having it get thrown out completely after a couple of minutes was slightly disappointing. So yeah, for that reason, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. As the TNA Knockout title was then on the line in the main event when Grace challenged Jordan for the belt she once proudly held. Grace had the power advantage, so she easily took control during the initial lockup and Jordan takedown. When we returned from the break, the match had become even more of a fight. Jordan was connecting with strikes while Jordan was looking for ways to overpower. Grace slips when going for a finisher, and Kalani took advantage of the situation by planting her for a 2. Williams and Saints ended up fighting in the aisle and the ref got distracted. Jordan considered using the title weapon. She decided against it. A few moments later, she used it anyway and to help get the win. Most of it was good, but they had a few close botches that kept it from being as good as it could have been. So yeah, for that reason, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. And overall, NXT may have only had one standout match, but it did a good job setting up Halloween Havoc. NXT was a heavy focus on the show, and of course the feud between Williams and Saints reaching boiling points. So yeah, it feels like in a few weeks' time, Last Man Standing, that may be the last chance, so I think that makes sense. So yeah, for this episode of NXT Alone, it was okay. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Guys, that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, follow us on our socials, link in the description below for daily wrestling news, meme and content. Subscribe to our other channels on screen right now, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.